Hey YouTube, it's Nerdcat back with another Halloween episode. So today, instead of a full costume or a costume look, I'm going to show you how to get gore effects with some stage products like liquid latex and fake blood, but as well as with your own makeup you already own, so that you don't have to go and buy liquid latex. It's not that expensive at Party City, but you know, sometimes you don't want to go or you just want to quickly do a quick gore makeup. So I'm going to try talking through it instead of voiceover.
Yeah, so ignore that comment. I thought I could do just talking, but it does not work very well. I'm gonna stick with my voiceover, so moving on.
So I'm going to be using my Too Faced mascara wow. I'm sorry about that. My Too Faced Born This Way foundation and cover up. This eyeshadow palette for bruising and the like, as well as some liquid latex. This one I just bought at my Party City. It was not very expensive, and some stage blood. I love this stuff, so of course I had to get it. This wasn't that expensive either on Amazon, but so you can go and buy these if you want, but you really don't have to. There are ways to make gore effects without it. One of the new things is using a glue stick to actually make cuts and gashes. So I'm going to try that as well, because I've never tried that. So yeah, so let's get into this video, shall we?
Alright, so we're gonna try the glue stick trick. All you need is a water-soluble, non-toxic glue stick. This is the one I used for blocking out my eyebrows in my Riddler video, so I know it's washable and safe for my skin. You're gonna need a chunk of the glue stick, roughly whatever size you wish your gash to be, and place that wherever you want. Make sure you smooth out all edges. You don't want a gap between your skin and the glue. Then you're going to need another piece. It can be the same size or a little bigger depending on your preference. And just put that a small distance away from the first piece so you have a nice opening. And remember to smooth out the edges for that one as well. Now this needs to dry, but I just hit it with a hair dryer, so it was a lot quicker. So once it's dry and not so tacky anymore, you're gonna go in with your foundation and your cover up to try and take away that glue color. Luckily enough, the glue is pretty pale, and so am I, so you can still roughly see it, but it was a lot easier to hide than if I had a purple glue stick or something. So remember that when you're trying this. But yeah, you're just going to cover it up so that it doesn't look like you have something on your face. So now it's time for some bruising. I'm using dark browns and light browns for the outer edges of the wound. Bruising usually is darker when it's fresh, and then as it starts to heal it gets brown. So I decided the browner edges were healing. Also, if you leave a little gap of white near your prosthetic, it will look more like it's a welt as well as, you know, a gash. Just a side note. Now I'm going in with some blues and purples to kind of darken up where the actual wound is, to make it a contrast between that and the brown. Now it's time to define the cut. So you take an angle brush and a little bit of water and some black eyeshadow or liquid eyeliner, anything black, to define where your cut is. You use black first to make an allusion to depth. You then go in later with reds, pinks, purples to bring out the color of a wound more than just a black hole in your head. What I ended up doing was getting some lipstick and mixing that with the eyeshadow, and that helped a lot. You can use red eyeshadow, but mine wasn't working so well, but the lipstick really gave it a really nice reddish blood tone, which was really good. Also remember to do the edges of your cut because the blood and everything is not right in the middle. I'm going in again with some more bruising because I thought it needed it. You know, that's the beauty of makeup. You can put it on, take it off, which I end up doing in a few minutes because I realized I overplayed my shading hand. Sometimes that happens. I just wasn't paying much attention and just kept buffering and adding more and more. I let her swipe it off. When you're removing it, remember to soften your edges. So after I swipe all of this makeup off, you can clearly see there is a hard edge. So what I do is take my fluffy brush and just buff out all of those edges so that they're softer and look more faded and realistic. Okay, time to talk about blood. So the blood that I use in this video is Maron's Stage Blood. It is a syrup-based blood, which is great for stage, pictures, all that good stuff because it has a very glossy tone and drips beautifully. However, it is not great for going out in costume. It doesn't dry, it's very sticky, and it will get all over everything. Your clothes, your best friend, everyone in the vicinity will be bloody. So I have two alternatives to this, especially if you don't want to go and pay for fake blood. First is to make fake blood out of red lipstick, black cream makeup, and clear liquid lip gloss. Now, this sounds weird, but it works pretty damn well. All you need is a tiny bit of the cream black makeup. That's something you can find in your smudge pots or your cream eyeliner. And you mix that together and it gives a glorious blood color. And it's something that you are probably already own in your own house. Another fake blood substitute is one that you can also eat as well. So if you don't want to use a blood caplet for being a vampire that's bleeding from the mouth, you can use this blood type. Now this is just corn syrup, chocolate syrup, and red food coloring. It's fantastic looking for blood and tastes really good. So when adding fake blood to cuts, first make sure to get into your cut because that's where most of the blood will be. And drip down a little bit if you wish. You really don't have to. It depends on how bloody you want your cut to look like. I always love me a good dripping wound, so I always add a lot of dripping blood and so on. But when you're adding blood to a wound, make sure to kind of pat it into the sides of the cut because wounds aren't clean. So always make sure that that blood isn't just perfectly in the center because then it's really not realistic. So always pat the sides. Also, when you're adding a syrup or liquid blood, if you tilt your head, it will make a more realistic dripping. Okay, so final verdict on the glue stick wound. I really love this. I usually use scar wax or liquid latex, but this is a great alternative if you don't want to buy those kind of products. It's cheaper and it worked just as well as any other cosmetic. I really like it, and yeah, I highly recommend using the glue stick method. So let's talk about liquid latex. Now, it is a natural rubber adhesive and it is latex. So there is a possibility that you might be allergic to it. Now, the easiest way I found to test this was to take a very small bit of liquid latex and put it on my like the back of my hand or somewhere just small and out of place. Not a lot, just a very small little bit. And if you get irritation, redness, itchy, burning feeling on or off, do not use this product. You are allergic to latex. So don't worry, I will show different ways of doing the same kind of designs with the latex as without the latex. So I will be having a gash on my cheek with latex that you could pretty much do with the glue stick method. I will also have 3 claw marks on my forehead, which I will then show how to do in eyeliner and eyeshadow. So don't worry if you can't use liquid latex because you're allergic, or you can't afford it, or you don't want to. There are other ways. Okay, so I'm going to start off with the laying out the latex for the gash on my cheek. Now, you can always paint the liquid latex in the shape you want. I end up just doing a big circle because I like to pull the latex instead of just having it dry in a certain shape. The cool thing about this liquid latex is that it dries clear, so it will be easier to paint over. But there are liquid latexes that do not dry clear. They dry in a neutral tone, which is a yellowish beige color. And on my forehead here, I am doing jagged cut marks, like if a claw was ripped across my forehead. This is also going to be something that I layer. When you're using liquid latex, always layer. It gives the latex a more jagged feel and a more realistic feel. Okay, so as my latex dries, I'm going to do the same jagged cuts but with liquid eyeliner. I'm using a liquid eyeliner pen because that is what I usually use, but you can use any other liquid eyeliner you want. So when you're drawing a jagged claw mark, remember to make each line a different height and distance, because claw marks are not even when they're scratched across you. So just keep that in mind. I will admit that this is not my strong suit. I'm so reliant on the liquid latex that I'm not great at doing the alternatives. But, it's all a learning experience. So now I'm just adding more layers to my liquid latex. As I said, it's better to have a couple layers on your liquid latex, especially if you're doing cuts or gashes. It gives it more of a real ripped up skin feel. Especially if you're going to pull liquid latex off your skin to make a ripping feel. The more layers you have, the more realistic the rip looks, and the deeper it looks as well. So with the liquid eyeliner though, after you've laid down your black lines, go in with reds and purples and brush underneath just one side, because you're going to make it look like it's a gash inwards. So if you paint on both sides of the line, it looks a little too fake. At the moment, mine looks a little too fake anyway, but that all changes in a little bit. Now to make it a little more realistic, I'm going to bruise it a little. My favorite thing. but I do it very lightly on this one, just the browns or reddish color, just so it looks irritated, and even a little dirty is good too, because then you know it's not clean. It's not the best. But to fix this horridness that I put on my face, I'm betting you guys are 10 times better at this than I will be. But there's a beauty to horror makeups is the blood. You can always just cover up your mistakes with a good placement of blood. So that's what I'm doing here. When you're doing blood on cuts like this, you don't always have to do what I do here. I overplay the blood on this cut mark. I don't do it so much on the liquid latex one, but this one I was trying to cover up my mistakes. You don't always have to overplay blood. A subtle placement of blood will work just as well. But here, I wanted to overplay the blood, so I made dripping and just all grossness on my face. But you don't have to. It's all up to preference. So this is my last layer of latex on these cuts. Since this is the last layer, what I'm going to do is raise one side of the edges and kind of peel them back a little bit. This will give it more of a raised cut look, which is what we're going for here. So you can use your fingers or a bobby pin just to raise one edge. You're just lightly pushing up on the latex. Now I'm just adding another coat of latex on my cheek because I still need it just a little bit thicker, but this should be the last coat. So now going into my cuts, you're going to outline these with black once again, just like how you did with the glue gash. You're just going to trim that pulled edge that you just made. Remember, this is just one side. You only want one side because it looks more realistic. It looks deeper and much more effective as a one-sided outline than if you did both sides. If you outline both sides of the cut, then it just looks like a weird white bump in the middle of two black lines, and nobody wants that. So I'm just putting on a little bit of foundation just to even out the skin tone. Probably should do that before you outline in black, but it made it a lot easier for me to refine those claw marks. I end up adding another layer of latex to my cheek because I realized that it wasn't the last and it needed just a little bit more. So going back to the cuts, I'm now going in with some reds and some purples to give it more of a deep cut kind of coloring. This is also why I really like the latex look, is because it looks very realistic and very deep. But there's many people who are much better at using eyeshadow and eyeliner and making depth with shading than I am. So if you're better at it with just regular eyeshadow and shading, then go for it. All power to you, because I can't do that to save my life. Anyway, back to the cuts at hand. I also put some red on the actual latex or the skin ridge, because once again, cuts are not clean. There's always going to be something somewhere. So remember that when you're making cuts, that being clean isn't always perfect. So this kind of cut you could leave just as is and not put all the dripping, but I end up using a spackling or speckling blood. Sorry. So I just take a eyebrow brush and some fake blood with a little bit of water, and I just splatter paint it onto my 3 cuts. It makes it look very realistic and very irritated. It's a very cool effect, and I highly recommend using it if you don't want to go the full dripping blood route. You can also stipple the blood onto your forehead, which I do in a few minutes if you don't want to do the splattering, which is understandable because splattering gets everywhere. And if you stipple red onto a cut, it makes it look very irritated, which is very cool look and very realistic. Here I am stippling the blood onto the cuts. It gives it a much more vibrant, bloody color, which is very cool and helps if you really don't want blood dripping down your face all night. Okay, time to handle the cheek latex. You're going to take a tweezers and lightly pick at the latex. Remember to be gentle because this is on your skin. You don't want to accidentally hurt yourself. So if you are under the age and are trying this, please make sure you have a parent or guardian around because you do not want to risk hurting yourself for a Halloween costume. Anyway, you're going to pull lightly on the latex until it rips, and then pull in different directions depending on how you want your ripped skin or gash to look like. I pull a little further up and then a little further down to make a very wide asymmetrical cut. Now I go in with scissors, which I do not recommend. I only did it because this latex was not ripping correctly. But do not put scissors near your eyes or face. Don't do everything that I say in this video, because I don't want you guys hurting yourself. So now I'm just covering up the latex with my cover up so that it blends better into my skin. I wasn't doing this full-heartedly because in the end you end up seeing a little bit of the latex, but you know, this is just a tutorial. So you're going to do the same thing you did on all of the cuts. Outline with black eyeliner, eyeshadow, whatever, because you want that dark depth. So outline it on all of the ridges of your rip or cut, and then just blend it out into the center. This whole cut is mixtures of blacks and reds and purples. You just want a realistic color since it is more of a deep hole in your face more than the others are cuts on your face. Remember to get the edges as well on this one. Again, you want to make sure that everything looks realistic. So having that red on your edge of the skin looks very cool and very realistic. Here I'm going in with a darker creamy red color just to add a little more depth to it. And I have this little skin flap that I created to make it a lot grosser, so I colored that on one side in red, so that way as it's hanging it looks more like pulled, ripped skin. I also go in with some purples and such to again make this more realistic looking. So I add some bruising as well, because cuts don't just stay as cuts, they bruise out as well. So remember that.
So that's it. My camera cut out, which totally sucks, but all I did with the gash is I added a little bit more blood and some more black to the corners just to make it a little more gooey and open.
So what I use to make the cut really gross, which I just show in speedrun in a few minutes, is baby powder. I know this sounds really weird, but using the baby powder actually solidifies the makeup because it absorbs some of the moisture. So it looks very much like plasma or your white blood cells is trying to heal. So it's got this clumpy kind of texture. There are areas where it's a little whiter and clearer because it rubs off some of the makeup. So there are these different patches inside the wound. It gives a very realistic and very gory effect. And I highly recommend it if you're someone who really wants to take these cuts to a new level. So, because nothing's easy, my audio on this area of the video is off, so the syncing doesn't work, so I'm just gonna voice over. Here's the rundown of everything that happened in this video. The glue trick from Pinterest is actually quite effective, and I highly recommend trying it if you really don't want to use latex or scar wax. It's a pretty realistic looking gash, and I think I might start using the glue trick more often. Also, you can obviously use eyeshadows and eyeliner to make cuts and jagged lines just as well as if you're using liquid latex. So you really don't have to go and buy liquid latex if you don't want to, and definitely not if you're allergic. But if you do go the liquid latex route, you can do these very cool, deep looking cuts and wounds, like really deep in their claw marks and huge open gashes if you want to make it really gory and gross. It's really up to your own preference. I love liquid latex, but again, don't use it if you're allergic to it, or it's really not that important. You can do the same effects however you want. Also, really sorry about the whole audio thing. I don't know what I was thinking, but hopefully you guys don't mind it too much. And I'm really sorry. Next video will be better, I swear. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. You know the drill. Like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see y'all next time for another spooky Halloween episode. As always, stay nerdy, my friends. Later!